Listen to me closely. You didn't stumble into this moment by accident. You didn't wake up today by coincidence, and you didn't hear these words because you were bored. God told me to tell you this today. What you thought was breaking you was actually building you. You've been questioning yourself, doubting your timing, wondering if you missed your moment. But God says, if you can still breathe, your purpose is still alive. Some of you walked in here tired. Not tired in your body, tired in your spirit, tired of waiting, tired of pushing, tired of being strong when nobody sees the fight you fight in silence. But hear me, God doesn't waste pain. Every delay had a reason. Every setback had an assignment. Every tear watered the ground of your next level. God told me to tell you this today. You are not behind. You are being prepared. Let me tell you something you need to hear today, not tomorrow, not when things get easier. Today, God is not done with you. I know life has a way of convincing you otherwise. Bills pile up, people walk away, plans fall apart, and suddenly you start thinking, maybe this is it. Maybe this is as far as I go. But hear this clearly. If God were finished with you, you wouldn't still be breathing, dreaming, hoping, or hurting. Think about your daily life. You wake up, pick up your phone, scroll through other people's victories while you're still fighting yesterday's battles. You go to work or search for work or do the same routine that feels like it's going nowhere. You smile at people even though inside you're carrying disappointment, rejection, and unanswered questions. And at night, when the noise fades, that quiet voice creeps in and says, "You failed." But that voice is wrong. Failure is final, but you're still here. That means the story is still being written. There are moments when life makes you feel invisible. You put in effort and nobody claps. You stay loyal and still get left. You give your best and still get overlooked. But just because people stop paying attention doesn't mean God stopped working. Some of the most important transformations happen when nobody is watching. Think about seeds. They're buried in dirt, covered in darkness, pressed down by weight. But that's not the end. That's the beginning. What looks like burial is actually preparation. You may say, but I wasted years. I made mistakes. Let me stop you right there. God doesn't count your life by mistakes. He measures it by potential. Every wrong turn taught you something. Every heartbreak sharpened you. Every closed door redirected you. If your past disqualified you, you wouldn't still feel the pull to become more, that desire to rise again. That's proof God is not done. Look at your scars, the emotional ones you hide, the trust you lost, the confidence that cracked. You think scars mean weakness, but scars mean survival. You didn't break, you healed. And healed people are dangerous because they know pain didn't win. You're wiser now, stronger now, more aware now. That version of you could not exist without what you went through. Some days you feel behind. You compare your timeline to others and think you missed your moment. But God doesn't work on social media time. He works on purpose time. The delay wasn't to stop you. It was to shape you. You weren't being punished. You were being prepared for something that requires depth, strength, and patience. Quick success can ruin a shallow foundation. God builds slow because he builds strong. Think about how many times you almost gave up, the night you cried alone, the moment you said, I can't do this anymore, yet somehow you did. That somehow wasn't luck. That was God carrying you when you were too tired to walk. You didn't survive by accident. You survived because there is still assignment on your life. And let's be real. Sometimes the hardest part isn't the struggle. It's believing you still matter. When people label you by your past or doubt your future, it's easy to start believing them. But God never consults your critics before calling you forward. He sees the version of you that hasn't shown up yet. He sees the strength you don't recognize. He sees the impact you haven't made yet. You're not late. You're not forgotten. You're not finished. This season that feels confusing is not your conclusion. It's a chapter, and chapters end, but the book continues. God is still shaping your voice, refining your character, aligning the right opportunities, and removing what would have slowed you down later. So when life tries to convince you that you're done, remind yourself, I'm still standing. I'm still learning. I'm still growing. And as long as God gives me breath, there is more ahead. What's coming will make sense of what you've been through. And one day you'll look back and realize this was the moment that proved God was never done with you at all. Let me speak to the part of you that feels ashamed of struggling, the part that thinks difficulty means you're losing. Hear this clearly. Your struggle is not a sign of failure. It never was. It never will be. Struggle is not proof that you're weak. It's evidence that you're still fighting, still moving, still refusing to quit even when everything in you feels tired. Look at your everyday life. You wake up already feeling the weight of responsibility. You're juggling work, family, expectations, and silent battles nobody knows about. Some days just getting out of bed feels like a victory. And yet you tell yourself, I should be doing better by now. But better according to who? Social media, other people's timelines. Your struggle isn't saying you're failing, it's saying you're in process. Think about how pressure works. Pressure doesn't destroy what's strong, it reveals it. When you squeeze an orange juice comes out. Not because the pressure created it, but because it was already inside. Life squeezes you, and what comes out shows what you're made of. Your patience, your resilience, your ability to keep showing up even when motivation is gone. That's strength, that's growth, that's not failure. You've been showing up to places where you don't feel appreciated. You've been trying again after rejection. You've been learning how to smile while your heart feels heavy. That is not losing. Losing is quitting. And you didn't quit. You may have slowed down. You may have doubted yourself. You may have cried in private, but you kept going. That alone separates you from defeat. Some of you think, if I were really meant for more, it wouldn't be this hard. But nothing valuable comes without resistance. Muscles don't grow without tension. Diamonds don't form without pressure. Strength doesn't appear without struggle. What you're facing isn't meant to crush you. It's meant to condition you. You're being trained for a level that requires endurance, not just talent. Let's talk about the quiet struggles, the ones nobody applauds, the discipline of choosing responsibility over comfort, the effort of staying kind when you've been hurt. The courage to start over when you feel embarrassed to be back at the beginning. These are daily life battles, and you win them more often than you realize. You don't see them as victories because they don't come with applause, but they matter. There are days when progress feels invisible. You're doing the work, but results aren't showing yet. That doesn't mean nothing is happening. Growth often happens underground before it ever shows above the surface. Roots grow before fruit appears. If you quit now, you stop the process right before it becomes visible. What feels like stagnation is actually preparation. You may be struggling financially, emotionally, mentally, or relationally, and you ask yourself, why am I still here? Because struggle sharpens awareness. It teaches you what matters. It strips away illusions. It forces you to develop wisdom instead of shortcuts. People who never struggle often collapse when pressure finally comes. But you've been trained by difficulty. Stop being so hard on yourself. You're not weak for feeling tired. You're human. Strength isn't the absence of struggle. It's a decision to stand up again, even when your knees are shaking. You don't need to pretend you're okay. You just need to keep moving forward, one step at a time. Progress doesn't always look powerful. Sometimes it looks like survival. One day this season will make sense. You'll realize the struggle taught you discipline, humility, patience, and clarity. You'll look back and say, that's where I learned who I really was. The struggle didn't disqualify you, it refined you. It didn't stop your journey, it strengthened your foundation. So don't label your current season as failure, label it as training. You're not being broken, you're being built. And what's being built inside you will last longer than anything that came easily. Keep going. Your struggle is not the end of your story, it's the reason your story will matter. Let me speak to the ache you feel when something leaves your life and you don't understand why. The job you lost, the relationship that ended, the opportunity that slipped through your fingers. You keep replaying it in your mind, asking, what did I do wrong? But hear this clearly today. What you lost was making room. It wasn't taken to punish you. It was removed to prepare you. In everyday life, we grow attached to what feels familiar, even when it's limiting us. We hold on to routines that drain us, people who no longer see our value, situations that keep us small, simply because they're comfortable. Comfort can feel safe, but it can also quietly cage you. When something leaves your life, it often reveals how much space it was occupying in your heart, your time, and your energy. And sometimes God allows that space to open so something greater can finally enter. Think about how your room feels when it's cluttered. You can't move freely. You can't think clearly. You can't bring in anything new because there's no space for it. Life works the same way. When something exits, it's not always a loss, it's a clearing. You didn't lose that job, you outgrew it. You didn't lose that relationship, it reached its limit. You didn't miss that opportunity. It served its purpose and made room for something aligned with who you're becoming now. I know it hurts when things end without explanation, when people walk away without closure, when doors close suddenly and leave you standing in confusion. Loss has a way of making you question your worth. But what left wasn't strong enough to carry the future that's calling your name. If it had stayed, it would have delayed you. Sometimes removal is protection in disguise. Look at your daily habits. When something is removed, your routine changes. At first, that change feels uncomfortable, empty, too quiet. But that quiet is space. Space to heal, space to reflect, space to grow, space to hear what you couldn't hear when life was noisy. You don't realize how much something controlled your direction until it's gone. You may be grieving what you thought your life would look like by now. The timeline you planned, the people you thought would always be there. But growth requires release. You cannot carry old versions of yourself into new seasons. The weight would be too heavy. What was removed made your load lighter, even if it didn't feel that way at first. Some losses feel unfair. You gave your best and still lost it. You stayed loyal and still got left. You worked hard and still got let go. But loss doesn't cancel your value, it reveals it. You are not defined by what you lost, but by what you do next with the space that remains. That space is powerful if you use it wisely. Think about how nature works. Trees shed leaves not because they're dying, but because they're preparing for a new season. If they held on, the weight would break them. Letting go is not weakness, it's wisdom. And just like seasons change, what left was never meant to stay forever. You're not empty, you're open. Open to better conversations, open to healthier connections, open to opportunities that fit your current strength, open to growth that couldn't happen while you were holding on to what was familiar but limiting. One day you'll look back and realize that what felt like loss was actually alignment. That ending was the beginning of something more fitting, more fulfilling, more expansive. You'll understand that if it hadn't left, you wouldn't have stepped into what was waiting. So don't chase what exited. Don't beg for what released you. Stand in the space that was created. Fill it with purpose. Fill it with growth. Fill it with belief in yourself. What you lost didn't leave you empty, it made room. And what's coming will fit you better than anything you had to let go of. There are moments in life when everything goes quiet, and that silence can feel louder than any noise you've ever heard. You pray, you hope, you wait, and nothing seems to move. No signs, no clear direction, no immediate answers. In those moments, it's easy to assume you've been forgotten. But hear this deeply and personally, silence does not mean absence. Just because you don't hear anything doesn't mean nothing is happening. Think about your daily life. There are seasons when you're doing everything you know how to do. You show up on time, you give effort, you try to stay positive, yet the outcome you're waiting for doesn't arrive. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months, and the quiet begins to mess with your mind. You start questioning decisions, your worth, even your direction. But silence isn't rejection, it's often preparation. Consider how much work happens behind the scenes in ordinary life. When bread is baking, the oven is closed. You can't see the transformation, but something powerful is happening inside. When a phone is charging, the screen is dark. When roots grow, they push deeper underground where no one applauds. Silence doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means something is happening where you can't see it yet. In relationships, silence can feel especially painful. When someone stops calling, stops explaining, stops showing effort, your mind fills the gap with fear. But not every silence is abandonment. Sometimes it's space for clarity. Sometimes it's a pause meant to protect you from rushing into the wrong decision or staying in the wrong place. Quiet moments reveal truths that noise often hides. In your personal growth, silence often comes right before change. There are seasons when motivation fades and excitement disappears. You're still showing up, but it feels mechanical. That doesn't mean you've lost your passion. It means you're transitioning from emotion-driven effort to discipline-driven growth. Discipline grows in silence. Character is shaped when no one is watching. We live in a world that celebrates instant responses and constant noise. Notifications, messages, updates, everything screams for attention. So when life gets quiet, it feels uncomfortable, even scary. But growth doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it works quietly, patiently, intentionally. The strongest foundations are built where no one sees. You might be in a silent season right now. No clear direction, no visible progress, no immediate reward. And you're wondering if you're wasting your time. You're not. You're learning how to trust without proof, how to move without applause, how to stay committed without constant reassurance. Those are muscles that only develop in silence. Think about how storms work. Right before a shift in weather, there's often an eerie calm. Silence doesn't mean the storm is gone. It means something is changing, and change doesn't always come with warning. It often comes after quiet preparation. Silence also teaches you to listen differently. When external noise fades, internal clarity begins. You start noticing what drains you, what excites you, what aligns with who you're becoming. In silence, distractions fall away and truth rises. You hear your own voice again. If everything in your life feels paused, don't rush to fill the quiet with panic. Don't assume the worst. Allow the silence to do its work. It's aligning things you couldn't force. It's removing what needed to go. It's strengthening you for what's next. One day you'll look back and realize that the quiet season wasn't empty. It was essential. It gave you perspective, patience, and strength. It prepared you for a level that noise couldn't teach you how to handle. So if you're in silence right now, stay steady, stay open, stay faithful to your growth. Because silence is not absence. It's evidence that something greater is unfolding beyond what you can hear or see right now. There comes a moment in life when you realize you are not the same person you used to be. You don't react the same. You don't break the same. You don't fall apart the way you once did. And that realization matters because you are stronger than your last season, even if you don't always feel like it. Strength doesn't always announce itself with confidence. Sometimes it shows up quietly in how you survive what once would have destroyed you. Think about your everyday life. There was a time when one bad comment could ruin your whole day. One mistake could keep you awake all night. One disappointment could knock the air out of you. But now look at you. You still feel pain, but you don't collapse under it. You process it. You keep moving. You've learned how to carry weight without letting it crush you. That's not numbness. That's growth. You've lived through moments you never thought you would survive, seasons when you were unsure of yourself, unsure of people, unsure of your future. You faced loss, rejection, confusion, and pressure all at once. And yet here you are. Wiser, calmer, more aware. The version of you that exists today is proof that the last season did not defeat you. It developed you. Daily life doesn't stop just because you're healing. You still had to show up. You still had to work, take care of responsibilities, answer questions, make decisions. You didn't have the luxury of pausing life to process everything. You learned how to function while healing, how to smile while rebuilding, how to stay responsible while your heart was tired. That takes strength most people never see. You don't give yourself enough credit for how far you've come. You focus on what's still missing instead of acknowledging what you've already survived. You compare yourself to others without realizing they didn't walk your path. Strength is not about never struggling. It's about adapting, learning, and refusing to stay stuck. Think about how challenges hit you now compared to before. You still feel stress, but you don't panic as easily. You still feel fear, but it doesn't paralyze you. You still feel doubt, but it doesn't define you. You've learned how to breathe through the moment instead of letting the moment control you. That is strength in action. Your last season taught you lessons you didn't ask for but needed. It taught you boundaries. It taught you discernment. It taught you the difference between attachment and alignment. You don't chase validation the way you used to. You don't tolerate disrespect the way you once did. You don't ignore your instincts anymore. That wisdom didn't come easily. It was earned through experience. Strength also shows up in your ability to forgive yourself. You no longer punish yourself endlessly for past mistakes. You understand now that growth requires trial and error. You've learned to speak to yourself with more patience, more compassion. That internal shift is powerful. The way you talk to yourself changes how you face life. There are days when you still feel tired. Strength doesn't mean you never get exhausted. It means you rest without quitting. You slow down without giving up. You adjust without abandoning yourself. The fact that you keep choosing to move forward, even when it's uncomfortable, proves you are stronger than you think. One day, something will happen that reminds you just how much you've grown. A situation that would have shattered you before will barely shake you now. And in that moment, you'll realize this is what strength looks like. Quiet, steady, unshakable. So don't underestimate yourself. Don't doubt the progress you've made. You are not the same person you were in your last season. You are more grounded, more resilient, more capable. You've been built by experience, not broken by it. And that strength you carry now will carry you through whatever comes next. There are days when a quiet fear creeps into your mind and whispers, maybe I'm too late to start again, too late to dream bigger, too late to become who you once imagined you could be. That thought can sit heavy in your chest, especially when you look around and see others moving ahead while you feel stuck. But hear this with clarity and truth today. Your time has not expired. Not now. Not ever. Life has a way of making us believe that there's a deadline on purpose. We attach age to success, timelines to happiness, and speed to value. We tell ourselves that if something hasn't happened by a certain point, it never will. But real life doesn't move in straight lines. It moves in circles, pauses, detours, and restarts. The fact that you're still here means the clock is still running. Think about your everyday routines. You wake up, do what needs to be done, and sometimes it feels repetitive, like nothing is changing. But repetition doesn't mean stagnation. Practice doesn't look exciting, but it builds mastery. Just because you're doing the same thing today doesn't mean tomorrow won't be different. Progress often hides inside consistency. You might feel behind because of decisions you made or didn't make. Maybe you trusted the wrong people. Maybe you stayed too long in something that drained you. Maybe fear held you back when opportunity knocked. But timing is not about perfection. It's about alignment. You weren't ready then, and that's okay. Readiness isn't failure, it's wisdom forming. Look at how many times life forced you to stop. Setbacks that slowed you down, responsibilities that demanded your attention, circumstances you couldn't control. Those pauses weren't wasted time. They taught you patience, resilience, and clarity. They shaped your perspective, and the version of you that exists now can handle what the earlier version couldn't. Daily life can make waiting feel like punishment. Watching others celebrate milestones while you're still working toward yours can feel discouraging. But comparison steals joy and distorts truth. You don't know the cost of their path, just as they don't know the weight of yours. Different journeys require different pacing. What matters is not how fast you go, but that you keep moving. Your time has not expired because growth doesn't come with an expiration date. Reinvention doesn't have an age limit. Learning doesn't stop at a certain chapter. Every day you wake up, you have the ability. Thank you to choose differently, think differently, act differently. Change begins the moment you decide it's possible. Think about how many people found clarity after confusion, purpose after loss, and direction after delay. They didn't arrive early, they arrived ready. Timing is less about when and more about who you become by the time you arrive. And you're becoming more capable with every season you survive. There's also strength in waiting that most people overlook. Waiting teaches you discipline. It teaches you humility. It teaches you how to sit with uncertainty without giving up on yourself. Those lessons become tools when opportunity finally comes. Without them, success would feel overwhelming instead of fulfilling. You may feel like you missed chances, but some opportunities only appear once you've lived enough to appreciate them. If they had come earlier, you might not have recognized their value or handled their responsibility. Delay often protects you from receiving something before you're ready to sustain it. So don't rush yourself out of frustration. Don't talk yourself out of possibility because of fear. Your story is not late. It's unfolding. Every step you take, even the small ones, keeps the door open. One day you'll realize that the timing you questioned was actually perfect, that the waiting shaped you, that the delay matured you. And you'll be grateful that your journey didn't end prematurely. Your time has not expired. As long as you're breathing, learning and willing to grow, there is still more ahead. Keep going. The moment you're waiting for is still waiting for you too. There are moments when pain becomes the loudest voice in your life. It tells you who you are, what you deserve, and how far you can go. It replays old failures, broken relationships, embarrassing moments, and unmet expectations. Over time, if you're not careful, you start seeing yourself through what hurts you instead of who you truly are. But hear this clearly today. Stop seeing yourself through pain. Pain is a chapter, not your identity. Think about how pain shows up in daily life. You hesitate before trusting again because you were once betrayed. You hold back your voice because you were once ignored. You lower your expectations because you were once disappointed. Without realizing it, pain becomes a lens. Everything you see passes through it, and that lens distorts reality. Pain has a way of shrinking your self-image. It convinces you that you're fragile, that you're too much or not enough. It makes you cautious in places where you were once confident. But pain is not a reliable narrator. It speaks from wounds, not from truth. Just because something hurt doesn't mean it defines you. Look at how pain influences your daily decisions. You avoid opportunities because you're afraid of failing again. You stay quiet in rooms where your ideas matter. You settle for less because you don't want to be disappointed. Pain teaches you survival, but it's show. Never be the voice that leads your future. Survival mode keeps you alive, but it doesn't let you live fully. Pain also changes how you talk to yourself. You become harder on yourself than anyone else ever was. You replay mistakes and punish yourself long after the lesson was learned. But growth requires compassion. The version of you who went through pain did the best they could with what they knew at the time. Holding that version hostage doesn't help you move forward. Daily life doesn't pause for healing. You still had to function while hurting. You still showed up to responsibilities, even when you were emotionally exhausted. That doesn't mean the pain didn't matter. It means you were stronger than you realized. But strength shouldn't come at the cost of self-belief. Pain often tries to tell you that you're broken, but broken things don't grow, learn, or hope. And you're still growing, still learning, still imagining a better future. That means you're not broken, you're evolving. Healing doesn't erase pain. It changes how much authority pain has over you. Think about how differently you'd see yourself if pain wasn't the loudest voice. You'd recognize your resilience instead of your scars. You'd see your courage instead of your fear. You'd notice how many times you stood back up instead of how many times you fell. Perspective changes everything. Pain narrows your focus to what went wrong. Growth widens it to what's still possible. You don't have to forget what happened. You just have to stop letting it decide who you are today. Your past may explain you, but it doesn't define you. There comes a moment when you have to gently tell yourself, I am more than what hurt me. More than the rejection. More than the loss, more than the disappointment. That shift doesn't happen overnight, but it begins with awareness. Every time you choose courage over caution, hope over fear, and self-trust over self-doubt, you reclaim a piece of yourself from pain. One day, you'll look back and realize that pain tried to limit you, but it failed. You learned from it, but you didn't live inside it. And that's when you step fully into who you're becoming, not shaped by wounds, but strengthened by wisdom. So stop seeing yourself through pain. See yourself through growth, through resilience, through possibility. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become after it. There are moments in life that don't look dramatic. From the outside, you quietly change everything on the inside. Nothing around you may look different. The same streets, the same responsibilities, the same people, but something within you has shifted. That's because today is a turning point. Not because the world suddenly changed, but because you did. Turning points in daily life rarely come with fireworks. They arrive as decisions. A decision to stop giving energy to what drains you. A decision to try again instead of giving up. A decision to believe in yourself even when fear is still present. These small internal choices create powerful external change over time. Think about how many times you've waited for life to change before you change your mindset. You told yourself, once things get better, I'll feel better. But growth works the opposite way. Things start to change when you do. Today becomes a turning point the moment you stop seeing yourself as stuck and start seeing yourself as capable of movement, even if it's slow. In everyday moments, turning points show up quietly. You respond calmly instead of reacting emotionally. You walk away from something that once controlled you. You rest without guilt. You speak up when you would have stayed silent before. These are signs of internal progress, even if no one applauds them. A turning point is also when you stop waiting for permission. You realize you don't need everyone to understand your journey. You don't need perfect conditions to begin. You don't need fear to disappear before you act. You move forward with courage, not certainty. That shift changes how you approach everything. Daily life often trains us to overlook our own growth. We focus on what's still missing instead of what's already changed. But look closely. You think differently now. You set boundaries more clearly. You value your time and energy more intentionally. Those are not small changes. They are foundational ones. Turning points don't erase challenges. You'll still face obstacles, doubts, and moments of uncertainty. But now, you face them with a different mindset. You don't panic as easily. You don't quit as quickly. You don't define yourself by temporary setbacks. That's growth in action. There's also power in recognizing when a season has ended. You stop forcing what no longer fits. You stop explaining yourself to people who refuse to listen. You accept that some things are complete, and that completion makes room for progress. Letting go becomes less painful when you understand it's part of moving forward. A turning point is when responsibility replaces excuses. You stop blaming circumstances and start focusing on what you can control. Your habits, your thoughts, your effort. You realize that while you can't change the past, you can shape the future by what you choose today. One of the most important shifts happens internally. You start trusting yourself again. You believe in your ability to adapt, learn, and recover. You stop doubting every decision. You understand that mistakes are part of the process, not proof of failure. Self-trust is a powerful turning point. Over time, these internal shifts create external change. New opportunities appear because you're open to them. Health improves because you prioritize yourself. Relationships improve because you show up with clarity and confidence. None of it feels sudden, but all of it feels right. One day,